Question I often get from riders is, what's the advantage of a pedal with a low stack height? Let's talk about what stack height is first. The stack height is the distance between the middle of the pedal axle and the top of the body of the pedal itself. We'd like to have that relatively low. The higher it becomes, the more unstable the rider becomes, the less economical they are. If you can imagine, if we could really make this ridiculously high, move it up several centimeters for the pedal to be up here relative to the axle, you can imagine what that would mean in terms of trying to pedal the bicycle. So the lower this becomes relative to the axle center, the more efficient you become in pedaling the bike. This is the ASSIOMA pedal, and the stack height is on this is 10.5 millimeters from the middle of the axle to the top of the platform. That's roughly 3/8 of an inch if you work in non-metric measurements. So that's really quite low. That in fact is the lowest of all the stack heights of road power pedals on the market. So that makes the pedal very efficient. And why that's efficient is because it puts you closer to the stroke being performed. It's not being done from a high level above the pedal. It's being done right at the axle itself, or almost on the axle itself. So it's really quite low, and that makes it very easy to pedal the bike efficiently. Question from Saeed: if I live in a hilly area, what's the best way to improve my FTP and climbing ability? Well, first of all, living and climbing in a hilly area is very good for both of those needs. What I suggest is you can do something like 6 to 10 minute intervals at or slightly below your FTP on a hill. The hill doesn't have to be terribly steep. It can be somewhere between, let's say, 5 and 7 degrees, which is relatively common to find on roads around most countries. So if we're due like about 20 to 40 minutes total of 6 to 10 minute intervals like that. So it'd be like 2 10-minute intervals, or perhaps 6 minute intervals, all at that same intensity. The recovery between them is the amount of time it takes to descend, which is usually on a hill like that, usually roughly half the time it took to climb the hill. So if you're in a 6-minute interval, you can probably descend in 3 minutes. And as soon as you get to the bottom, start again. Don't prolong the recoveries. The recovery is critical to making sure this workout is beneficial for you. So I'll keep the recoveries very short. You can do those intervals I suggested twice a week. You may want to be able to alternate it with other types of workouts also, but basically make 2 of your harder workouts during the week this type of workout or more intense. So it really comes down to what your goals are. If your only goal is to improve your FTP, then do this workout twice a week. The other 5 days a week, ride easy, zones 1 and zone 2. Question from Jason Carmichael: what is the best way to train to be able to keep up with the group in high intensity road racing? I can speak to that one from experience. I'm dealing with that all the time myself. The older you get, the more difficult it becomes because they don't have age groups for as old as I am. So consequently, I'm forced to race with much younger guys. So what I suggest to you is what you want to do is mix hard and easy rides. It shouldn't all be hard, or shouldn't all be easy. You need to mix them. And what I'd suggest is something like 2 days a week that you do what I would call VO2 max intervals. VO2 max intervals are intervals done with your power meter at about 120% or even slightly higher than your FTP. So that's 5 days a week. So these very short intervals. They can be something such as 10 to 30 second high intensity intervals with equal recoveries. And as you become more fit, those recoveries can be reduced. But consequently, what you're doing is you're increasing your VO2 max, which is what those high intensity efforts within a high intensity road race call for. But don't forget that you also need to have your FTP raised. So I would suggest doing only one of the high intensity workouts per week, the VO2 max intervals, and one workout done as FTP, which are longer intervals in the neighborhood of 6 minutes to 10 minutes at a time, with very brief recoveries, about 1/4 of the duration of the previous interval. And that the combination of those should have you well prepared to do group rides or group races. And of course, one of the other options for you is to alternate, or to include, instead of doing one of the interval workouts, do a group ride or a C priority race during the week also. Those will help to prepare you for the specific needs of a high intensity road race. Yeah. So what do you do if you think that maybe it's psychology or mental approach to racing that's holding you back? Well, in that case, probably the best cure for that is to race. You need to have that experience. And if it means you have to overcome some of your things that are holding you back mentally, that's where it begins, is get into a race occasionally. And doing hard group rides is the same sort of thing. Hard group rides are very good for stressing or checking how mentally prepared you are for this type of competition. So basically, just get out there and do high intensity workouts with other people. That's the best way to improve the psychological side of racing.